on to Jordan's story too. So yeah, we are live on Facebook and all that stuff, and I'm going to start sharing stuff
Great.
in just a moment, and then we'll go ahead and rock and roll here.
And before we start, I'd like to sing my version of "I Don't Know How to Love Him" from Jesus Christ Superstar. If everyone will
Jesus Christ.
No, that's not the song. That is not the song.
That's funny. All right. So this link should be showing up here in a second. Yeah, this is a neat little. This little StreamYard thing is the thing that Dennis Elliott showed us, Brian, and it's been really awesome.
Dude, it's all these changes that we've talked about, and we're leveling of the playing field. Coronavirus has fast forwarded that 5 years.
Exactly.
To where, people are streaming an enormous amount of content, and they like the live stuff. Have you noticed? I think it's because there's not that, because of the sports, especially when there was no sports, people were all over the live stuff, man.
I just shared it to you guys, and I tagged both of you, okay?
Fantastic. Thank you.
So you should be able to share it in just a second if you wish. And I'm going to go over here and share it over on the Twitter machine.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's finally, things are catching up. And how many people are realizing they don't have to work in an office anymore?
Well, like when we go back to normal, there's really no reason for Brad and I ever to be in the same room again. As far as doing
how fantastic.
Which should preserve our friendship.
Believe me, I was uncomfortable with it for about 15 years.
I know. It should preserve our friendship really nicely.
Kind of a godsend when you think about it.
Right. See?
Get back to this window. Where is it? Where are you guys?
I just shared it.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. I just shared it out there. We'll see. Do we have a head counter on this?
It's over on the left. It's I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it?
I see. No.
Oh, okay. Well, it says 8 right now before we get started.
Oh, 8's all right.
Yeah, we usually get 8 or 10, and then of course obviously it's archived.
It's more than show up at a Biden event.
And I will say this, right? I will say this pregame before we get started, and I don't mind. I would say it during the show. We went over 10,000 downloads for the podcast for the third straight month. We were up 10% month to month, so that's been going really well over the past 3 months.
Dude, people are plugged in a way that it's becoming really important. And some of the things that we've all been saying for years, how important it is to have accurate information and all that. People are finally seeing it. When talking about coronavirus and stuff, it might be life and death.
Exactly.
Someone told me I didn't have to wear a mask. Someone told me once you get it, you never get it again. Someone told me, it's like maybe we all need to be checking our sources here.
Possibly.
Britt, you do have to confirm that I said how many years ago that the internet would be the end of the world. How long ago did I say that? I did say that like 15
25
years ago. Yeah,
it was a long time ago.
No, because when I was at Rock 92 and Jack Murphy was down the hall, Murphy was really first to do a lot of stuff on what was the burgeoning internet, and I saw what was going on, and he was way ahead of me. But I said this is great, and it's also going to be the end of the world when everybody figures it out.
Oh yeah,
isn't it great to be right?
It is.
Congratulations, Grant.
Yeah. All right, we ready?
We're ready.
So this will be the cut point where the podcasters they don't get to hear all this stuff. It's just the
this is the
exclusive content, right?
All right, here we go. It is the Brad and Britt cast, and we're live in the 1:30 Eastern Time hour with the folks who are with us on YouTube and the other platforms. You podcast people, hello. It's great to have you. We have Brian Clary with us today, old friend of the show, and editor of Triad City Beat. And we have Brian. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We're appreciative of coming here. We called you yesterday because your paper and Jordan Green, your ace reporter and one of the principals of Triad City Beat, has been on the Proud Boys story for a long time. I mean, this is not now, and you've heard in the last few days the way the national media is reporting this. They are reporting it from two angles. One, people know about it, and two, here they are. You've never heard of it. Let's explain who they are. And so I guess we kind of have to be the same way, because everybody doesn't really know the name. I mean, I think Donald Trump thinks the Proud Boys are the latest boy band out of Orlando, or we're a bluegrass group in Arkansas in the 40s, funny. Proud Boys.
Right.
He pretends he doesn't know who they are, and we don't have to even go through that whole bullshit from the last few days, because we know the story there. Everybody understands he's just lying. So go ahead.
Well, what they are is a militia that focuses or in their recruiting on ex-military or current military or law enforcement. It's different, like from Antifa, say, in that there is clear leadership and a website and a manifesto and whatever, but then, of course, like a lot of social movement groups, they have leadership crises and differences in the thing that everyone's telling you about Proud Boys right now is how can they be white supremacist if their leader is a dark-skinned Cuban guy,
right?
And I mean, I can explain that, but I mean,
isn't that part of the con? Isn't that part of trying to trick people into thinking they're something that they're not? Plausible
deniability, and which is a cornerstone of the plan, whatever it is, and the guy, like, there's a great piece actually in the Atlantic about him too, and there's been a lot of, like you said, there's been a whole media like blitz, but Jordan has been covering these guys for a long time, and they were in Charlottesville, guys with tiki torches and stuff like that. They have like shirts that they like to wear. Those like sort of, I think they're Fred Perry. It's like a polo shirt with the little two like leaves on it. I think the company stopped making those shirts because the Proud Boys were wearing them.
Wow.
And so they're able to connect. You talk about the internet being the end of the world. They're able to find each other and connect and recruit and stuff like that. I wonder how many people are interested in joining the Proud Boys after Trump gave him a shout out in the middle of this debate.
There's no doubt about it. That's such a big. Now, Britt never thought about it for a second, was never interested, because he heard that one of their rules is you're not allowed to masturbate.
Oh yeah.
What the hell is that all about?
And how do they police that? I would like to know exactly how they police that.
How does that work?
Some of their internal communications, because we get them leaked to us and stuff, are kind of funny. Like sometimes in the white supremacist sort of subset, they're not always in such great physical condition. And the Proud Boys were the ones who were like, do some push-ups and stuff, maybe train or exercise a little, get a haircut, get new clothes, it's about optics,
Right. What's the relationship between the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys that we hear about? Are there some overlapping there? Are they the same thing?
Well, think about like the late 60s when you had all these groups, like some of them were like civil rights type organizations like SNCC and stuff like that, and there were the Yippies, and there were so this is happening on the right and the left too to some degree, but to the right. So the Boogaloo Boys. Remember that movie, The Warriors?
I do remember that, yeah.
They'll have like their different sort of. The Boogaloo Boys wear Hawaiian shirts, and
yeah, I saw that. I don't know why they do that though. I haven't read one.
They're all parrot heads. No, I'm just kidding.
Now that makes sense, actually. That Jimmy Buffett is behind all of this. Now that does make sense.
Why they wear. So Boogaloo is a reference to the Second Civil War, and the reason that they call it Boogaloo is because of the movie Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Right.
Because this is going to be a sequel to the Civil War in the same way that Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo was able to continue the storyline of the original. So then they do a little bit of wordplay. So Boogaloo can become Blue Igloo, which is another way they reference it, because then, for like keyword searches and stuff like that, you can mask it. And then the other one that caught on was Big Luau. So Big Luau, Boogaloo becomes Big Luau, and that hence
the Hawaiian
shirts. Now, if you look at these Boogaloo guys across the country, some of them at these demonstrations want to stand with Black Lives Matter because police overreach is one of their platforms, and it was one of the Proud Boys platforms.
Wow.
So, you know,
when one of their techniques, or their main technique, is to try to identify places in the country where clashes could occur, that things are tense, and they love to show up and make themselves known that they are protecting the city. For instance, Portland against the Black Lives Matter or the lefties, and so they get in there and they bring weaponry and they brandish it, and by definition they up the tension level. The police show up. The next thing you know, you get a mixture, and then the next thing you know, you have a B-roll for Fox News that gets run forever of the violence being caused. Right? Isn't that part of that?
Well, totally. And if you remember, there was an incident in Greensboro, North Carolina, back in the early days of these Black Lives Matter protests, where they arrested 6 young Black men who had concealed weapons on them. Greensboro police did. At the very same time, there was a truck full of white guys in body armor with long guns out right by the ballpark, protecting, a local business who did not ask them to be there, by the way. I know the guy who owns the business. He was as shocked as anybody else that they were sitting outside there. And they were left completely alone, even though they had weapons in a protest area, which you're not allowed to do in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, all these ingredients are coming into place, and it's the potential for deep harm is quite great, I would say.
Britt, do you have some? Because I have a specific question about what we can look forward to over the next 4 to 6 weeks as we start to have early voting all across the country, practically, not just in a few states, and then on election day, and then after that, based on the fact that the dog whistle wasn't blown the other day, it was 500 bullhorns at once coming from Donald Trump saying, assemble, intimidate, and cause incidents, because I need as many pretexts as I can come up with to try to contest this election and say that things were not done correctly. And I'm going to contribute to that. I'm going to make sure it happens. Go.
Sure.
1, 2, 3, go, guys. So
that's the game plan. Create chaos and no one notices how incompetent you are, keep the news cycle moving and people will forget the horrible thing you said 6 hours ago. I see what you're saying. And we do have, if he's asking people to come watch the polls, there are people on the left, of course, also signing up to watch the polls. I don't think they're bringing weaponry, but I don't know.
Well, I can tell, I'm one of those people. I'll tell you what I'm doing, and I'm coming unarmed.
Come alone and unarmed.
I signed up the other day. It was a big sign-up sheet. The Guilford County Democratic Party. For each early voting site, they have several shifts all day long, 3-4 hours, where you just go and you stand there and you wave hi to people and you hand out the literature that has the card that has all the Democratic candidates on there. So, because people very often, when they show up to vote, they haven't thought about it. They're making, and that's all I'm going to do. Now, am I risking my life by just showing up there because they're going to be all these guys? I'm absolutely not concerned whatsoever. I'm not afraid of these people. I know they're full of crap and they're not going to, but obviously that's their game plan. Their game plan is to try to just cause chaos on behalf of Donald Trump.
That's the plan. And here's what's interesting is when you see these clashes between left wing and right, and I don't know about but even just the presence of left wing and right wing protesters, you have to watch and see who the police protect in those instances. Now, getting back to the Proud Boys, of course, there's an enormous amount of law enforcement involved in Proud Boys. And of course, the FBI has put out all sorts of information about how some of these white supremacist groups have infiltrated law enforcement at every level all across our country. So you see who they protect. And it makes you curious in a place like, say, Greensboro, Guilford County, where we've got a black police chief and we've got a black sheriff. And how well are these folks with rebel flags going to be received? I don't know the answer. I can't predict anything at this point, man.
But it's certainly, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions on the Greensboro police at any level. I'm not. But if what you say is true, if the enemy is already within on the side of the people that we thought were the good guys, and all over the country, suddenly it's like the Lone Ranger and Tonto, standing up on the hill, and Tonto turns to Kemosabe and says, Kemosabe, who? What? Yeah,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Brad, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you a more current reference.
How's that possible? How can you do that?
Let's talk about Order 66 in Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
The clones turned on the Jedi. And, I think, that's a little more apt because
but the Lone Ranger wore a mask.
Nobody, and not even Trump, fully knows who the Lone Ranger is, right?
Oh, that's right.
It's a dated. How about that?
When it comes to the
he's like Charlie McCarthy. He's a puppet,
By the way, there's nothing better than being dunked on your own podcast.
I know it's the worst, isn't it?
I got Spalding all over my forehead here.
It's the worst. When it comes to the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys and all these folks, how are they being funded, and why is it the same funding that happened during the 2016 election to hack people? Go.
Right. Well, think about it, man. I mean, there's all sorts of entities who have money that are interested in seeing discord in this country. I had this weird little flash, like trying to think 6 months out these days is just totally futile, right? But I was like, oh man, all these different possibilities. What if there's like a street war? Like a weird sort of civil war between these white supremacist guys that suppose they go into like the hood and are looking for trouble there. That's a street fight. And these, now understand, other people already own all these blocks and territories and everything.
Right.
And but like then who gets interested in funding some of these guys to keep the discord going and instability, which is great for other countries and some other interests. I don't know, man. You got to hope like the corporations won't let it happen because they need us to buy all their stupid stuff.
Right, exactly.
I'm glad you brought up the idea that if you got out a sheet of paper and listed 10 things and your name was Vladimir Putin, you said, all right, here are the 10 things I can do to screw up America. Well, he can just rip up the paper because we're doing it ourselves. And it seems like it's coming from the very top of our government, the president of the United States. The Russians, preceded by the Soviet Union, forever were always trying to discredit American elections. They would scoff at it and say, they're not real. It's not all about that. And I guess it's Joseph Stalin who said, it doesn't matter who votes, it's who counts the votes. I think he's the guy that said that, or a lot of people have said that.
Well,
but then in Russia and in dictatorships, the guy wins, 97% of the vote. And we've now opened the door to let the whole world laugh at us and say our elections are bullshit because the president of the United States says they're bullshit. And he couldn't say that if it wasn't true. Right, Vladimir? Right. I mean, this is the nightmare. And I guess my anger, of course, is still directed at people that fell for this 5 years ago and voted this guy in. I'm angry at them. I'm triple angry at them. And as they dig in more and refuse to admit that they've been conned and it gets worse and worse, thank goodness Trump's numbers are falling. And on the margins, it looks like he's losing support. It doesn't matter how many people show up at a rally at the Minneapolis airport.
Well,
that's irrelevant.
Win or lose, those people are still going to be here with us. Now, here's the other thing about human nature. If, and this is a huge if, and I'm not counting on it, but suppose, best case scenario, there's like a Biden landslide, inarguable from election night on. Suppose that happens, which I don't know that's going to happen. And, he somehow has to answer for these crimes he's been accused of, and he is disgraced. So many people will act like they never backed him in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. That happened. That did happen with Nixon.
It happened in Greensboro baseball stadium.
Anybody who wins it, they immediately say, I was never against
Brian,
that.
Brian, I am trying to do outdated references. Will you let it go? Will you just let it go?
If it's not at least 45 years ago, Brian, we don't want it on the podcast, if you don't mind.
There was a Partridge Family episode just like that. If you remember.
We do look like the Brady Bunch here. We need three
very
more.
Much
We have it perfect. Yeah.
My friend's 10-year-old daughter loves the Brady Bunch.
Really?
Loves every bit of it, just like I did, just like we all did. My kids are not interested at all.
That's going back to some of Jordan's reporting, and I was just looking at some of the stuff that he was posting. We just actually posted a link for those of you who are watching about some of the recent stuff that's going on in Graham, North Carolina, throughout Alamance County, where people are very openly supporting white supremacy and racist groups, and they're very proud of it, and they're marching through the streets. And it seems to be odd, but these groups have been driving hard to the hoop for, I don't know, 3.5 or 4 years. I don't really know what coincidence.
Right. And we're talking about So Proud Boys, Boogaloo Boys, whatever.
Yeah.
There's also a group called Act Back, which is Alamance County taking back Alamance County.
I love these guys.
They've got rebel flags, and they've got, Trump, all that stuff, T-shirts that say, just horrible stuff on them. And, and I was at one of the Graham marches, because they also have, a gigantic Confederate monument right in front of their courthouse in the middle of the square.
Right.
Which, for Black folks, maybe gives them the idea that they might not be getting a fair shake inside that building.
Possibly.
Symbolically, it's bad feng shui.
Yeah.
Right. So this was a Greensboro activist. He calls himself Free Dope Major, and an Alamance County activist, the Reverend Greg Drumright, and a ton of people, maybe 700 or 1,000. And then we get down to, and I'm live streaming the whole thing. We get down to the town square, and all the rebel flag guys are all set up in this one section that the police got roped off, and there was a bell in there. And as the Black folks were doing, or the Black Lives Matter folks were doing their presentations and speeches and songs and stuff, they just started ringing this bell that's in that grant to just try to drown it out. Like these are bad people.
Yeah. And it's not even a hard call. Although if you're the president of the United States, apparently it is kind of a soul searching moment. Anybody else is pretty easily denouncing those folks, right?
Greedy, cruel, and stupid, and just, rude, rude.
And as you guys have pointed out, and I think Jordan's reporting has pointed out, the sheriff in Alamance County, given his history, may not be the guy who has the most moral authority when it comes to election day to be the guy who's patrolling the voting sites to make sure that there's no bad stuff going on, right?
Well, this is a real problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like in a failed state.
Well, as you mentioned this stuff about the early vote,
follow the law, and you've got a sheriff who thinks that in Alamance County these days, there's been some contact and conflict between the two groups of protesters, and if one of the Black Lives Matter protesters touches someone, they get arrested for assault. If one of the white supremacist protesters smacks a flag or something, they both get arrested for assault.
That's amazing.
Well,
it's amazing.
I don't think people who don't know history, and many people don't, realize just how precarious a position we're in right now, because we don't have a federal government that's on the side of right this time. This is as if Dwight Eisenhower in 1957 sent federal troops to Little Rock to kick the blacks out of the high school, to keep the high school segregated.
You're so right.
Instead of the other way.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right. That it's weird how history repeats itself, but it flips over, where some of this activist action is over on the right side right now. And, it's terrifying, and we're all kind of on our own, and we have lost faith in all these institutions like the judiciary and the Justice Department and both houses of Congress, like, they're dysfunctional. They don't do what they purport themselves to do.
Well, I think you're a little what about both sidesism there, because the problem is not the House of Representatives. It's Mitch McConnell. It's the Republicans.
Yeah,
it's the coup that's taken over this government. It is not the House.
And let's talk about a dated reference. This is the culmination of like a 50-year plan, the Southern strategy, Reagan, Newt Gingrich's permanent Republican majority. If you're talking about a permanent Republican majority in the United States in this day and age, you're talking about marginalizing the majority. Yeah. And which we're doing through gerrymandering in North Carolina, sure, and we're trying to fix it and whatever. But so this is what leads to unrest. This is just a mathematical formula. You know, if you ever look, so this is why unrest happens. You're marginalizing the majority, and the only way to maintain minority control over a majority, well, the best way is fascism.
Yeah. And that seems to be what the plan is. When you were talking about the voting sites and all the problems that might be going on there, I can tell you, I'm not specifically speaking of any specific law enforcement agency, but across the country, law enforcement agencies are stretched thin anyway. Tax revenue is trickling in at best. I don't know what plan there might be in any city, where it's Wilmington or Greensboro or Asheville or wherever, to have folks out there at the early voting sites or on election day itself, patrolling and making sure that there's not shenanigans going on. I don't know what those plans look like right now. And yes, as you say, the federal government looks like they don't want to get involved at all on any level. So I don't know where we stand on that.
Nobody, I mean, this is the great, nobody knows anything, man.
Right.
You know? I mean, what we do on election days, we go out and we hit as many precincts as we can. We listen to chatter. We put tip lines out there. People tell us, oh, you know, there's one time there was a police roadblock in between a low-income housing development and its polling place, like a license check or something. So we went out there. We're like, what's going on with this, you know? And they were like, oh, we didn't realize it was election day.
Huh, it's election day? Is it? They do that on the first Tuesday in November now? Huh. Christmas is on the 25th of December now. That's what it is this year?
Well, they packed it up. But, like, you know, remember before early voting, election day was it. And everything you could start doing rat messing on election day, and you miss your chance, you know.
Right.
Power goes out in a neighborhood if you're using electric. I mean, so early voting has helped somewhat. And I mean, do we still have faith in the integrity of our elections?
Right.
I mean,
I do. I absolutely do, and I think that as much as I predicted the end of the world because of the internet years ago, there is an awareness level right now. And there's a story that came out last hour from Politico that down in Florida, the number of black people who started to register to vote instantly 2 days ago because of Trump at the debate, it zoomed. And so the backlash, and at some level, I have enough faith that what we saw in 2018 at the polls all across the country, except in fucked up states where they elected Republican senators because the map was favorable to them back there. So that turns into a mandate by Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell to shove another Supreme Court justice through like this, which is such crap. Because remember, that was a blue wave election. That's when 40 plus seats switched in the House, and that's where you know, you can't argue with 9 million votes in favor of Democrats over Senate races, where in Wyoming, you know, there's more people in Guilford fucking County than is in Wyoming, and they've got 2 senators. We won our 2 from here too.
Right. Yeah.
So, but you really hit it with this idea of Newt Gingrich and the idea of the white minority taking over the government and acting as if they're the majority, and they're using every trick in the book. And these voter suppression tactics, they go back to Reconstruction. And we've got the poll tax in place in Florida to stop the people who are legally allowed to vote from not voting because they haven't paid their fine for a traffic ticket in 1974.
I love that Bloomberg move, right?
Yeah.
That's what real billionaires do.
Yeah.
So what, they can't vote? They got traffic tickets? How much?
Yeah.
You know, $500,000, whatever. Just pay them.
Right.
$750. You know. Yeah, there's a lot going up against Trump. I've been saying since the beginning, since he got elected last time. I was saying, you know, barring something extraordinary happening, he's going to walk into his second term. But of course, something extraordinary has happened. And right, you know, people are, I can say this, and we were talking about this earlier. People are way plugged into the news right now. We can't make it fast enough. You know, they want to know about the freshest stuff, the newest stuff. They need to know because it does change. Have you ever seen the news cycle moving this fast?
No, but do you have school age kids still at home?
I got 2 in college, and I got 1 in the room next to me taking high school classes.
Okay, so you're not really chained down like millions of people are with small kids who
I'm really lucky,
suddenly become, and I think that's where Joe Biden is going to win this election easily, because he looked straight into the camera the other night and started to talk to those people, and he spoke to them when he got on the train in Ohio and Pennsylvania on Wednesday. And he talks to those people in a way that Donald Trump cannot dream of. He can try to fake it now, and he may try to fake it, but I think it's too late.
He can't even.
Right.
This
Forget
guy's,
it.
He can't. You understand? He can't help any of this at this point in his life. He's basically a robot of himself. There's only a limited amount of moves the guy knows how to make, and you know, this is the other thing that I thought about that debate, which was horrifying from tip to tail. I mean, but you know, I was watching on my Twitter, a lot of women were like, "Oh my God, I've been in this meeting where the loud old white guy won't let me talk and just shouts me down and just says like wrong, you know, and just belittles me at every opportunity. I've been in Joe Biden's chair." And
did you tell those women to go make you a sandwich?
Right.
No, but in all seriousness,
not helpful.
When you see these, and it's like, when you say to these women, have you not been paying attention? This is the same asshole from 3.5, 4 years ago. He's been doing this. There's no difference. I mean, you're seeing it writ large. I'll give you that, but he's been the same toxic male asshole his entire life.
You know what else? I'm going to engage in some speculation, but I suspect that his wife hates him.
Oh, I would say that's true.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Like, you know, sometimes there's those marriages that are built on spite, and eventually one of them is going to murder the other one. Divorce is good enough.
Brian, the speculation would be that she doesn't hate him.
The way
I think it's a given.
Looks at him is like a cat full of resentment and anger, and that it's going to pee on your pillow as soon as you leave the house, you know.
I got another real current reference. It's a movie called War of the Roses. Go look that one. That's another. You might want to go check. And she's really hating him over the past week now that she found out his ass is broke and she's not even going to get anything in the divorce. That's really intensified the hatred. I mean, maybe I just know this because I grew up on Long Island and I've been familiar with Trump since I was 10 years old. But didn't we all know that he was broke? Didn't we all know that? I mean, all the billionaires know it. All the Wall Street guys know it. Nobody lends money except for the shady Deutsche Bank stuff. You know, he made one really good real estate deal, and that was Trump Tower. That was a good deal at a time when he got that for nothing, and he built it up. And the time New York came up around it, and it was great timing. And after that, people would lend him as much as he wanted, and he lost it all, like $1 billion in the casino business. He lost and he went. My favorite thing going back to the casino thing was the scam that his dad made to bail him out when they were just going to go buy a bunch of chips at the casino. Remember this? And not do anything with them. I love that. I love the fact that was like a thing. That's how much his father loved him.
I mean, I am a fan of casinos. And I understand gambling math.
Yeah, I've been in a couple.
And, you know,
the house wins.
Casinos don't lose money.
The house wins. That is like the permanent rule.
There have been many times that I wish I was a video poker machine.
Exactly.
Put me out in a gas station, and I'll just collect money all day long, and I'll pay out, 96% of it. You know,
see, there's a new casino opening this month in Las Vegas, downtown, a giant brand
Holy
new
shit.
one. They're still
Wow.
building them. They are still building
Yeah.
them.
Oh,
So,
it's actually a very profitable business, Brad.
that's what I hear.
As it turns out, except for one guy. When one guy runs it.
Not if nobody can get there.
They give away drinks. They give away, and also, I guess, Britt, I got to give you compliments. The new Raiders Stadium is beautiful.
It is. And a bargain at just like $2 billion. That thing in LA was like 6.
Ryan.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know stadiums could even cost that much yet. But
don't patronize him like that. Britt didn't build the goddamn stadium. Don't patronize him like that.
I wish the outcome of that game had been better. But I hope you get to go see one out there as soon as you're able, because it looks totally dope. I was married in Las Vegas. Did you know that?
I was not aware.
Yeah, we got married at Caesar's Palace.
Wow.
It was awesome. 15 minutes.
I saw a story yesterday that one of the guys who runs one of the Elvis marriage chapels, he's hurting bad.
Oh my God.
His business is down 95%. I mean, I think that the Joe Biden is in such a good position, unfortunately, because the economy is not what the stock market shows it to be. And I think every day in this country, every day, hundreds, thousands of businesses close forever. And the unemployment numbers still every month now, 8, 9, 100,000, 1 million people are applying for the first time.
And steady improvements in the stock market. And if you ask, and I have friends who work in finance, and if you straight up ask them, like, what's the deal with that? They don't know how to answer. They just kind of shrug.
I can answer it. I can answer it now because at this point, we're all going to Walmart. We're going to Costco. We're going to Target. We're going to our grocery store. And those people are doing great. But what's happening? Every person with a small business is getting killed, and therefore stock prices can go up in that situation. The stock prices do not depend on a mom and pop store in on Battleground Avenue in Greensboro North. It doesn't matter.
That's correct.
So that's the difference.
My smartest friend who works in that business is a hedge fund guy, and he has an honest job. He runs the NYU fund, but he didn't always, and he used to make ungodly money, and he's ashamed of it. But he said at the very beginning of this, he's like, when this is over, there's going to be like 4 companies left. It's going to be like, oh, here's a data reference.
I just named it.
That Stallone movie where like Taco Bell won the franchise wars and all restaurants were Taco Bell.
Right.
Or that bread or something.
Yeah. That's great.
Like Amazon's doing great.
That's not exactly a new reference there, Brian. That's not a new reference.
It's only like 30 years old. I mean he's trying.
You forget Stallone is pushing 80. Okay.
Goddamn right he is. No, I think you're right about that. And I think it scares me to think about the fact that what this election might look like nationally if 200,000 people hadn't died, if we hadn't had a coronavirus, I think maybe Trump would be well on his way to re-election had he not blown the response to COVID-19.
Well, totally. And man, and it's crazy. Like it's so crazy. So Florida, whose numbers are like quadruple North Carolina's numbers, is wide open now. Florida is once again like the most important state in this whole election. It always comes down to Florida. Yeah. And like so I gotta think that because safety measures have become kind of a wussy leftist thing.
Exactly. Masks.
So you're putting these Trump voters. There's enough time for a bunch of them to die of coronavirus between now and then.
Especially at a rally, at a huge rally.
This is the I can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue theory put to the test.
Exactly.
With millions of people, with everyone everywhere. I can let you die of a disease for which there is no cure and no vaccine yet, and you'll still vote for me. That's the bet he's making.
Dead, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What if they die?
And then he's like trying to not get them to vote by mail so that they would be able to vote before they die.
Obviously, if you die, some illegal scheme by Democrats is going to find out who you are and vote illegally in your name. That's clearly.
1 or 2% are dying. a huge chunk are being hospitalized, which, I mean, how are you going to vote if you're on a – they're not using ventilators as much as they were. But, I mean, the whole thing is like the lunatics are running the asylum, man. I mean,
exactly.
You're trying to impose a logical framework on what's happening and why. You really can't. I mean, and the only thing that describes all of it is the leadership vacuum. People don't know what to do. Remember when Kennedy was president and men stopped wearing hats? You know? And when Bill Clinton was president, people thought that blowjobs weren't sex.
Yeah.
You know? And so what is the effect of this guy on the zeitgeist, man, on the mood, you know? We're all turning into what, pugnacious jerks? I mean, maybe, I don't know. How does this trickle down?
Well, I think there was a hardening of the culture. We used to see all the hand wringing back in the 90s about Clinton, how he had just made things so awful and morally reprehensible and so on and so forth. Right. But I think there's been a real hardening of the culture. And yeah, racism has become the cool hit record that's come back again, obviously, as we talked about early in this podcast. Or the thing that hit me as the only native North Carolinian in this discussion, when we talk about the stuff that you're talking about with the Proud Boys driving hard to the hoop, there's obviously in the area we live in a long history of the Klan being very strong in this area. But then I look at the polls, it's very even nationally with Trump and Biden, but Roy Cooper is kicking Dan Forest's ass in the polls. I don't know if that's going to be a 10-point advantage. It's going to translate to election day. Same thing. The race for the Senate seems to be tight between Cal Cunningham and Tom Tillis. So I don't quite understand how the Roy Cooper and how some sensibility has leaked through to the populace, the voting populace in North Carolina, vis-a-vis Roy Cooper.
You didn't say that the Senate race is tight, did you? Because Cunningham is up 8 to 10 points.
Okay. Well, then I don't even know how to explain how the Trump-Biden thing is tight and those two races are not.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, one, they're probably all wrong. But also, like, North Carolina has changed. I've been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
And North Carolina has changed a lot in terms of demographics, in terms of socioeconomics, a lot of rise and fall. There's a lot of what they call halfbacks. You know what those are? Those are New Yorkers who moved down to Florida and it was too hot. They moved halfway back.
Right.
And we've seen, like, my parents moved here, you know, like, because for a lot of reasons. And demographically, like, Greensboro has become incredibly multicultural, and the state itself has. So, like, all these things are starting to sort of hit critical mass. Like, you know, Texas is supposed to turn blue at some point, right? Is it now? I don't know.
It could be.
Coronavirus seems to have fast forwarded a lot of things like 5 years. You know, technologically, even like old people know how to use Zoom, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I got to figure this out, you know, and do text messages and we're reassessing like so much. I mean, this is like the biggest question mark, this election. And I'll tell you, and I've been talking about this all day, but after 2016, I don't try to predict these things anymore, man, because I got caught completely flat-footed. I saw when the die had, you know, I realized that around 10 o'clock at night on election night in 2016, I was like, I got to go. I got to go into writing. We got a paper coming out tomorrow.
Well, I think it wasn't that way, though. Yes, Trump won the election, but he only won because 3 fucked up states with a third party person who may have been a plant by Vladimir Putin siphoned off some votes. And then Jill Stein was there, siphoned off more votes. And the margin was less than the number of votes that those people got. So Donald Trump is the most unpopular president ever, just numerically speaking. It's bullshit. And the polls were right everywhere except in a couple of states where they didn't pay attention. And this time, you know that those polling organizations don't want to get caught, so they're more diligent about polling right now. So I refuse to be spooked and say, oh, it's going to happen again. Oh, he's going to come back. Oh, he's great. You can't beat him. I'm not going there. I'm not going there this time. Doesn't mean it's over. Doesn't mean he can't win. Doesn't mean he can't bullshit his way through another debate and suddenly the headline will be Trump turns it around. The race has tightened. You know that's going to happen, but
there's no way. Hey, let me get a quick plug in if you guys don't mind.
Go for it,
please.
An election guide every year with info on all the candidates running in Guilford and Forsyth. Is from president all the way down to school board. We've got the council state races and all that. And if you are a low information voter and you need a primer just with information on everybody, that's coming out October 15th. That's the day early voting starts, and it'll be on our website. And I'll tell you that maybe we could talk about this for a little bit. Like, I am planning on voting on election day in person.
Wow. Why are you making that choice?
I always do. I'm not an early voting person.
Mm-hmm.
I also understand how votes get like counted and tabulated and stuff. And I know that, and this is, I don't want to undermine confidence in our elections.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you're about to. Here we go.
Well, the way, like, people talk about election fraud and all that, and they think people going to vote twice is some sort of election fraud. But give me a break. That doesn't move that doesn't move the needle. But some of these smaller statewide races and stuff, a few hundred votes can move the needle. And we've shown that you can use absentee ballots to accomplish that. In fact, the last time it happened was back in 2016 when that guy McCrae Dallas did it in North Carolina for the Republicans.
Correct.
Had a whole stack of absentee ballots. And what they did was they filled out people's paperwork, had the absentee ballot sent to their homes, and then had people canvass the neighborhood saying, hey, did you get your absentee ballot in the mail? Can I collect that from you? Have you filled it out? Don't worry, I'll fill it out. And that's how they did it. So, like, that is a weakness in the system, and there's going to be so many of them. I'll say this too: the Guilford County Elections Director is a guy named Charlie Collicutt. He is incredibly smart. He is highly ethical. He says it all the time, but I believe him when he says he does not care how the numbers fall. He has to be that way. He's agnostic. I don't know about this year, but he's always been like that. And our elections are in Guilford County are generally very clean, but I like early voting is totally solid. I feel, and I like voting on election day because I'm always going around to all the precincts and talking to the precinct judges and getting numbers and stuff. And I'm friends with the people at my my precinct. And if they didn't see me, they would think something is wrong, and they might come to my house and ask. So that's my plan now. I might do early voting. And I'll also say that, like, I am not messing around with the coronavirus. I don't do anything. I'm in my kid's bedroom right now. I've been working from my house 4 days a week. I go to the office 1 day a week, put the paper together. I do Zoom. I do, I grocery shop. I've been smoking cigarettes for 35 years. I'm in pretty good shape. But my plan is to not get the coronavirus.
That's your plan?
Yeah.
A lot of people have had that plan, Brian. It didn't work out for them.
I know. Well, and I know people who have gotten it who are pretty cavalier about it up front, and then all of a sudden weren't. I've got 2 kids at App State, remember? And an App State student died yesterday, a 19-year-old kid.
A very healthy 19-year-old who played basketball as a kid from the Thomasville area, from Fallburg in that area. And again, for underlying conditions and all this other horse shit, this was a healthy 19-year-old that died, and his family is begging people to wear the damn masks.
And he didn't have the same symptoms. He didn't have respiratory symptoms. He had nervous system symptoms, and this is like this is something I say all the time. This thing has only existed for less than a year.
Exactly.
As far as we know, we don't know anything, and it's doing all sorts of stuff to people. And I tell you, people love to tell me what's really true, like all the time. You probably get this too. I get people all the time saying, hospitals are getting extra money if they put coronavirus in death.
I've heard this. I swear to God.
I get the exact same amount of people saying, they're erasing coronavirus as cause of death because they don't want to see people.
I'm not hearing that from 70-year-olds. I mean, I'm hearing it from like 30-year-olds. I'm hearing that from like 30 and 35-year-olds.
Insurance companies are not in the business of bonusing based on the method of death.
Right. Yeah. How does that work?
It's just a thing I know. I'm just positive about it.
This is not how that's not how it works. And then when they were like, aha, all these people didn't actually die of coronavirus. They died of pneumonia from the coronavirus.
Exactly.
Only 6%. I mean, come on, man. What are we, can we all, I don't know. We don't have a shared reality anymore.
Triad City Beat is the website. It's triad-city-beat.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Brian Clary. That's Clarey. And Triad City Beat on Twitter, triad_city_beat.
I got an idea here. Let's do this again the week before the election. Maybe like Tuesday, or like when we're about 4 or 5 days out.
Yeah, I'm in.
Let's see how we feel.
I'll tell you, my crystal ball is broken. Like, I don't know. I used to have a pretty good, you can't see the future, but you can see when lines are going to converge, right? And it's my job to sort of anticipate and see what's coming up. And I don't know anything, man. I'm not comfortable. I mean, and the lines that I see that are going to converge terrify me.
I agree.
Right. So, but would Donald Trump be acting the same way, worse, or not as badly if he thought he was winning? Would he try to gum up the election process if he really thought he was going to win? If he had secret polling that showed, there's 20% of the people out there who lie to the poll, and I know I'm going to win. Would he do that? Keeping in mind that he did, after he was actually elected, after he did win the election because of the Electoral College, send goon squads out there to try to prove that he did win more popular votes. So he did prove the last time that even winning didn't turn him into a normal person. But his aberrant behavior, which gets more bizarre and weird every day, if that's possible, seems to be in direct proportion to how likely it is that he realizes and knows that he's losing. He is losing to this guy.
But Brad, you think Trump is playing chess, and I think he's playing checkers. I think it just whatever.
This isn't chess. This is turn over the board. This is throw the pieces up in the
taking a couple of moves out. But I think every day is a brand new day, and every conversation gives him a complete reset. And really, it's all in service to the ego. And as far as like rat fucking and mixing things up, that's just his technique. That's his management style. That's his company structure. That's just how he does his stuff. Hey, do you guys ever block trolls on these little comment threads?
Yeah, I just did actually. As it turns out, as it turns out, I was just doing some of that. Yeah,
we do too. When we're doing live stuff, people say all these horrible things, and I'm just like, get out of here. There's plenty of room for disagreement. There's plenty of room for even a little bit of hostility, but like, come on, man. You want to come to our stuff and piss all over it. That's
the mark of success. That's the mark of success if those people are coming in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
making all the right enemies.
All right, we've done enough damage for today. Brian Clary, Triad City Beat. You're the best. You're the best.
Hey, guys, you guys are awesome. I'm so glad you're still doing this. We need you now more than ever, right?
Yeah, I think
that's what they say. That's what they say. All right, we will be together again in then less than a month, right?
Yeah.
Less than a month in that final week of October, and let's see how we feel then. Okay, thanks, Brian.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.